So, hi guys, we're going to discuss about the Alt shortcuts in CostX. Excuse me. So, Alt shortcuts are using the Alt button in your keyboard. So, if you press Alt, all this Alt F, H, D, W, D, M, R, W, and Y would appear. So, you can actually add Alt+1, Alt+2, up to Alt+9 in your keyboard. So you can easily access some of those most important key in CostX. So we'll put it, I always recommend in this order, which I'm going to do now. So the first one is select dimensions in area. And I believe CostX is aware about the importance of this function keys because they made the button quite big compared to other items. So the first one is this select in area, and the second one would be the line and the point mode, and the fourth one would be the geometry snap, fifth one would be the angle, six would be the rebar. I can do 3D on 7, Alt 7, and Alt 8 is the negative, and Alt 9 would be the both positive and negative measurements. So just to do an example of the first shortcut, which is that one, it's already in here, but it's also there. But when you activate it without clicking, you just press Alt+1 and it just simply toggles in and toggles off as you press. So Alt+1, you can just, if you made a mistake, you can just press Alt+1 and highlight the area, and you can just move or modify, offset, change height, multiply, or whatever you want to do. So it's quite straightforward. So just an example, I just assume that this area here and that area there are test floor finish number 2, and I want them to be measured. So I can click on these dims and highlight on that and measure it. So you can do it that way, or what I do is I click on this folder to make sure where are the areas that I haven't measured yet. And then by holding Control key, I'll press on that. So now my active dim is this test floor finish 2. So I can just measure that area that I haven't measured before, and just to add, make sure that I have, so that's under floor finish number 2. So it's like, if for an example I misclick something and this is test floor finish 2, I can just highlight and change or move it to test floor finish 2, and just click OK. So it goes there. But that's probably easy for just one item. But if you have multiple items in your drawing, that you can just say this is 2 and this is also 2 here. I want to move them to test floor finish 2. So that should be easy. So it's not just for this. If you're working on like columns or posts, let's just assume this is post, test column 1, test column 2, 1, and then you just already click this, and you realize this is test column 2, and you just want to move them, probably, so it won't, so you just want to move them to test column 2. So you can just create another dim of test column 2 and just highlight it, right click, move. When you use the shortcut Alt+1, just press Alt+1, highlight it, right click anywhere except for the dim area, just right click anywhere in the drawing, click move, and then paste test column 2, and it will move to test column 2. So those are now test column 2, and these are now test column 1. So another thing that this Alt+1 is benefit is, if you're in this view and you just realize now these northern columns or posts are like 3 meters high, you can just Alt+1 highlight, right click, modify the height, and put height of like say 5 meters, and you can just highlight this if this is like 4 meters, and you can just highlight this, and if it's just one, you can just right click there. But if there's like a lot of them, like if example these 3 here are 3 meters, so you can just press Alt+1. So same thing with test column 2, if these 2 are 2 meters, let's say, and here would be like 3 meters, so it's quite easy. You can just use Alt+1. So that's good thing about using this Alt shortcuts. So Alt+2, which is the line, point mode is Alt+3, and Alt+4, Alt+5 is angle. All these are working in tandem. So what I mean with that is, when it depends if your drawing is a mix of raster and vector. So if you have a vector, a little bit smarter drawing, so you can just use line mode. So I'll press Alt+2 to make it into a line mode measurements. So that should create that. But if it's like a vector, I'll just press Alt+3. Now you can see I'm on the point mode. So it actually snaps in a straight pattern, not because there's lines, but let's try here in a vacant part of the drawing. So what happens is, because my geometry and angle is active, so what I'm normally, if the drawing is not smart enough, I would use the point mode, so which is activated by Alt+3 there, point mode. So if you go point mode and you're doing a free edge drawing, like doing not a specific path, so it's like you can just have that and deactivate your geometry and angle snap, which is Alt+4 and 5. So actually, while while on your middle of measuring something, so if I want this to be straightened, I'll just press Alt+5, so it made straight. And then as I realized maybe the next point is not perpendicular, so I'll just I'll turn off Alt+5 without going there. Just press your keyboard, and now you can click anywhere. So that's one of the benefit of Alt+2 to Alt+5. So you can just play with it, toggle. So another example that I can do there is, let's try if this wall here, let's just assume so it's actually smart, so it's quite easy when you do this kind of measurements here. But yeah, same thing, if you wanna do those, if you suddenly come across a curved wall, so you can just turn off your point mode. You can continue with the point mode and turn off your geometry and angle snap, so you can just follow the curve of the wall. I think Max. So the next one is Alt+6 and 7 is actually not that important. You can put any shortcut here. So I'm not really using Alt+6 and Alt+7, because if you try in your keyboard where Alt+6 and Alt+7, it's quite in the middle, and it's like totally in the middle of the two Alt, the left Alt of the space bar and the right Alt on the right side of the space bar. So it's just, those are just feelers. So 8 and 9 is the one of the most important shortcuts here. So when I use Alt 8, I use the Alt button on the right side of the keyboard, and Alt 9 would be the same, the Alt button on the right hand of the space bar on the keyboard. So to make an example of that is, let's say I'll turn off the snaps, which is this snap. So probably I can do the German, the angle. So without clicking anywhere, if I'm just like trying to run through all the shortcuts straight on, and then I'll just press Alt 8 and then do the deductions, and then I'll press Alt 9 so I can go back, and then I'll use my Alt 1 to highlight those and modify height because I want to deduct the wall heights, and then I'll go back Alt 8 again and then deduct the back to Alt 9, showing everything, but I need to adjust the deduction of the windows. Then I'll just use Alt 1 to highlight them individually, and so Alt 1, highlight this, right click, modify height. That's a window, selection 1.5 height. So we haven't put a height on the wall, right click on the wall, so let's just say this is 3.5. so now you have the 35 meter square test wall there. So if you want to move something, or probably I want this in another revised drawing, you can just highlight the whole thing, press F2, copy, and then you can just paste it in, open in another drawing, and just Ctrl V and it will paste there. If that's another method of just copying it, but make sure to delete the old one. So this is one of those shortcuts that's very important while doing a lot of measurements. Probably another trick that I think most new CostX users are not aware of is the shortcut O, which is, I think it stands for overlay, something like that. So some people's like, let's just say this is an area and there's a void in the middle that you want to do that. So you can't actually measure there in the middle. So what you can do is you can just press O, which is an override. I'll press O, and if I press O, use O, it allows me to measure inside this. So you can just right click and modify it into a negative, and that's your void deduction. But some people is also having difficulty in clicking that void if this one was already clicked. It's like, how can I click on that? And some people are like having difficulty in highlighting that area. You can actually use Alt 1, the first shortcut that I made as an example. But another the easiest one would be just put your mouse cursor where they are overlapping, and just press N. So every time you press N, it toggles between the two of them. So that's if you just wanna delete it, or if you wanna move it, Alt 1, highlight it, and then F2, and then just move it somewhere like here. So that's how you modify it. Yeah, and if like this, if you're working on landscaping and there's like a lot of these types of planting, you can just, you know, if just like the test column that I made as an example, assume these are 3 planting. So if you say I have 50 of this based on the planting schedule, so just right click, or this items here, then just click on multiply, and I have like